Hello everyone and welcome back to the final buff breakdown of Anniversary Night, and they buffed Merlin. Yeah, okay, so a lot of people were not huffing copium, I guess. He got a buff. He's the 5-star caster that got a skill buff, and the 4-star caster who happened to be Nursery Rhyme with also a skill buff. Now before we tackle this, I just want to quickly say thank you so much everyone for subscribing to the channel. We just hit 95,000 subscribers, which is absolutely amazing. We're now under 5,000 away from that prestigious 100k, so if you guys can help me get there, that would be so amazing. Also, don't worry, there's still a lot more content because next week, already on Wednesday, JP's summer begins, and I'll be doing a YouTube live as well for a reaction and translation as usual. So yeah, stay subscribed or subscribe if you haven't, because you know you'll get notified of all the goodies. A lot of big content on the way. Now let's talk about buffs today, okay? Let's start by talking about Merlin. So they buffed his illusion skill, his second skill if you will. So what it used to be on a 7-turn cooldown, the full party got a 1 turn of invul, and then also 50% star generation rate up for 1 turn. And the enemy got a minus 20% crit chance down for 3 turns. That was it. Not a terrible skill by any means. A bit high on the cooldown, of course, but it is still a basically, survive whatever the enemy throws at you. Granted, they don't have buff removal or invul pierce. So a lot of the times it was a very solid, emergency button as is. So I don't think this skill was ever bad to begin with. But let's see what they did. First of all, the cooldown is now 6 turns. Wow, that's interesting. The 1 turn invul for the full party remains the same. The star gen is now up from 1 turn to 3 turns on all allies. Pretty cool, still 50%. Now the full party also gets 50% crit damage for 3 turns, yes. And the enemy 20% crit chance down remains the same for 3 turns, but that's not all. Now the skill also gives the party a flat 10% battery. Okay. I mean, now on a 6-turn cooldown, that's a pretty cracked skill, I want to say. And obviously, he already had 20% party gauge from his first skill infamously. So hey, he is now on the spread 30 gang. Honestly, even better, because I feel like for supports it's always better if your batteries are, spread around for a bit more versatility. But yeah, he can still give everyone 30% now whenever he so chooses to by pressing skills 1 and 2. Wow, and the crit damage is no joke, because famously his crit damage was only on the 3rd skill. It was 100%, which is a lot, but it was only for 1 turn and for 1 ally on a 6-turn cooldown. So while he was still someone who can give you a good chunk of buster up and generate a lot of stars with his MP potentially if you can keep the train rolling, he was never really that amazing at buffing crit damage overall. Don't get me wrong, still very strong, but not like among the best of the best. But with this is very good. This is a lot, and it goes even better with this star generation buff for the full party going for 3 turns now, meaning that you'll obviously get even more stars, not just from his the stars per turn from his MP, but also from face cards. Very good. Yeah, this is pretty ridiculous. I am just kind of baffled that they even buffed Merlin to begin with. I still think even without this buff, I would still consider him a top tier support. Maybe not so much for farming before this, but certainly for bosses, he was always going to be strong and reliable. Is he like Castoria broken? No, but is he still amazing? Yeah, and with this, yeah, I mean, obviously he's even better now. And with this, maybe he could even have a bit more farming presence, because he was never really brought for farming. You could, but mostly if you ever need like big face card damage or something. Otherwise, you could probably do better with your supports. But with this, I mean, mostly the big thing is the additional gauge, but it's still quite a good addition for that. And the crit damage can be relevant too, because, in some farming you do end up face carding. Just wow, okay. Okay. So the caster tier list, I had him on the EX tier this year. Again, sorry, every other servant is missing besides the buffed ones from the, this anniversary, because I lost the cash, I guess, on this list in particular. But yeah, he was EX. Now, I'm not sure if this is enough to warrant EX Plus yet. Is he still an absolutely game-breaking must-have unit that will change an account? Maybe. He could be. Maybe some people already figured out way better uses for this buff. There could be something that's obvious that I'm just not thinking right now because I'm recording this immediately as this comes out. But I think I'm going to hold off for now. I think I'm going to keep him in the EX tier. He's still absolutely amazing. He always has been. We'll see. Maybe when we revisit the tier list, hopefully next year, we'll see how it ends up being for his actual placement, since at that point we've had a lot of time to, you know, test out the buff and see how much it changes things. But yeah, can't believe they buffed him. Pretty crazy stuff. Let's talk about Nursery next. It's also a skill buff for her. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this kind of stings a bit because they buffed her second skill, the Morph, which is also the skill I was hoping to see Tamamo buffed, which would have been also cool because if they buffed her today, it would have been a double Morph buff for an even cooler theme, but I guess they wanted to go with Merlin. Also, his rate up started today, so that was another big reason why people were speculating he might get buffed. So I guess it ended up being true. Anyway, Nursery's Morph, and another sad thing is that this was already better than Tamamo's Morph, even as a 4-star permanent. So anyway, 5-turn cooldown, she got 30% defense up for 1 turn for herself. She got 30% more defense up for 3 turns on herself. So on active, you have 60% defense for the first turn, 30% for the 2 turns after that. So quite a bit of tankiness from that. And then she also got 40% debuff rest for 3 turns for herself. This is the line that Tamamo doesn't have, so yeah, unfortunate. But honestly, it was still an okay defensive skill. I don't hate Morph. There's a lot more, you know, terrible vanilla skills out there than Morph. It's actually okay. But this is the one they buffed, so let's see what they did. Now, much like some of the earlier buffs from this anniversary, nothing that I just listed was changed, so they only added new stuff. No changes to any of the numbers or effects that I just listed, okay? So the first new line is she now gets 30% arts up for 3 turns. Very cool, because she was heavily lacking on damage. She did not have like any damage besides some crit on her first skill. That was it. And even the defense down on her MP was always after damage. So damage was a huge issue for her, even with the buffed MP. Now, another new line they added is that she now has a 20% AoE battery for child servant trait allies. Wow, and I'm pretty sure she herself is a child servant. Let me double check though. Yes, indeed, she does have the child trait servant as well. Makes sense, of course. So yeah, that's pretty big. She gets a 20% battery. And reminder, she already had a 40% battery. So now from her own stuff alone, granted you max her skills, she gets a minimum of 60%. And also spread gauges. That in addition to the arts up now, adding her damage and refund, I think she can actually loop now. Her looping was super sad before this, basically non-existent. But with these two alone, I think she could probably loop. Probably. Not sure how the damage will be yet, but yeah. But that's not all. They added one more line, which is also pretty cool. Now all Fairy Tale trait servant allies get 20% MP damage for 3 turns, okay? And again, I'm pretty sure she's a Fairy Tale servant. Yes, she is. Very good. Okay, this is a great buff. I love this buff. Not only is it great, as a, you know, this skill alone is now pretty cracked, it's also a very good buff to Nursery herself, who needed a buff, and also that addresses basically all the biggest problems that she had, which is mostly damage, but now also being able to potentially loop. Wow, so a double whammy of arts up. This is already 50% in damage buffs, mixed damage buffs as well, so that's actually going to add a lot of damage to her MPs. Still sad the defense down is after the damage on the MP, but with these two, it's going to be a significant damage upgrade. That's for sure. And now having the split battery means that refund can also be a bit more lenient. An amazing skill, again, on a 5-turn cooldown. For some other servant, again, much like with the red hair buff yesterday and some of the other ones, this could be absolutely insanely game-breaking, depending on who the servant is. But for Nursery, I think it's totally fair that she has a busted skill because she was already lacking, so I'm very happy about this. Very good. Now on the tier list, I had her on a flat C, which is pretty sad, but honestly, maybe it should have even been like D+ or something, because she's kind of forgettable and easily replaceable. But with this, honestly, I'm not sure if jumping the gun to B already is smart, but I'm gonna do it. I like this buff. It's huge. It's a great buff that addresses most of her big problems. We'll see how the numbers actually end up being once people, you know, try out the looping and whatnot, but damn, a well-deserved buff and a really great buff at that. She could still use maybe a bit more buffs in the future. We'll see if they do that, but already with this, she is now in a much better spot. So that concludes Anniversary 9 buffs. There's no need for me to do predictions for tomorrow because there are no buffs tomorrow. We are now day 7 in and that is it. But overall, my impressions of the buffs, I'm pretty happy. I think this is one of the better Anniversary batches we've had for buffs. Maybe not the best whatever. There's some buffs that I think were a bit weird or maybe not even deserved. This Merlin buff right here, I'm joking of course. I'm still kind of happy for him. And honestly, now that I finally got my copy on JP from the GSSR, hey, I guess I'm even happier. Sure, why not? But yeah, overall, I'm very pleased with these Anniversary buffs. Good job, Lasagna, okay? But please do buffs keep coming regularly, even still after this anniversary. That would be great. So there you go, that'll conclude this buff breakdown. If you enjoyed this video, do me a huge solid and press the like button. And again, do subscribe because we are on hot track for that 100k. I really want that play button so I can feel validated for all my work, okay? Yeah, I'm just being honest here. Anyway, thank you so much for everyone subscribing again. The 95k is huge and we'll be back right at minimum on Wednesday, maybe even before that, for that juicy Summer 9 content on JP. Super exciting. Anyway, have a great rest of your weekend, and I hope to catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.